Before you start example 1, please make sure you have read the stuff above it. For example 1, we are going to use the Gauss Jordan elimination with a 2 by 2 matrix. We're going to let R sub 1 and R sub 2 denote the first and second row respectively. So this R sub 1 means the first row, and R sub 2 means the second row. The arrow notation stands for replaces, where the expression on the left of the arrow replaces the expression on the right. So let's take a look at letter A. We have the system that negative 3x plus 7y is equal to 2, negative 2x plus 9y is equal to 4. We're going to start by writing in our augmented matrix. The augmented matrix takes the coefficients of x and y and our constant and puts them in these boxes. So let's do that. So we have negative 3 is our first coefficient. Let's make that look a little bit nicer. So we have negative 3, we have 7, and we have 2. And in the second equation, we have negative 2, 9, and 4. And what we want to do, our goal here, is to get down to where we have a 1 in the first row, first column, a 0 in the first row, second column, a 0 in the second row, first column, and a 1 in the second row, second column. So if we come back up here, Alex is going to help you along at first in these problems. It's going to show you kind of what you need to do. So in this first one, it's saying we need to multiply some number by row 1 to replace row 1. Well, in the back of our mind, we're thinking we want this first number right here to end up to be a 1. So what can we multiply negative 3 by to make sure that first entry is a positive 1? We can use the reciprocal. So we are going to take and multiply row 1 by negative 1/3, and that's going to replace row 1. So I'm going to take this negative 1/3 and multiply by everything in this row. Negative 1/3 times negative 3 will give me a positive 1, which I have right there. Then I'm taking negative 1/3 times 7, and that will give me negative 7/3. And then I'm going to take negative 1/3 and multiply it by 2 to give me negative 2/3. My second equation, or my second row, is staying the same. So that's going to stay negative 2, 9, and 4. Now I'm coming down to the second thing. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to get row 2, column 1. So row 2, column 1 to be 0. So to get this one to be 0, I need to multiply row 1 by some number, and I'm going to add it to row 2. So if we think about just this first thing right here, if I multiply a number here by 1 and add it to negative 2, I need it to be 0, which means I need its opposite. So I want to multiply the top number by 2, and then I'm going to add it to row 2. So that's going to look like the following. I'm going to take this 2 times 1 and add it to negative 2. So 2 times 1 is 2 plus negative 2 is 0, which is what I wanted right here. Then I need to take 2 times negative 7/3 and add that to 9. So do that for a second. Take 2 times negative 7/3 and add it to 9. You can pause it. If you did that correctly, 2 times negative 7/3 plus 9 will give us 13/3. So right here should be 13/3. Then I have to go and do 2 times negative 2/3 and add it to 4. So 2 times negative 2/3 plus 4 will give me 8/3. So 8/3 will go in this box. I haven't changed the top equation at all, so I'm going to leave that alone, and that's going to be negative 7/3 and negative 2/3. Still the same. Now I'm going to come to my third step, and I want to replace the second part of row 2. So I want row 2, column 2, to be positive 1. So if I take a look in row 2 right now, that's in that same spot, I have 13/3. So to get a positive 1, I need to multiply by this reciprocal, which would be 3/13. So I'm going to multiply by 3/13, everything in row 2. Well, 3 over 13 times 0, still 0. 3 over 13 times 13 over 3 gives me my positive 1. And then I have to take 3 over 13 and multiply it by 8 over 3, which will give me 8 over 13. So this number here is 8 over 13. My first equation I did not, or my first row I didn't change at all, so it's going to stay still the negative 7/3 and negative 2/3. Now I'm going to do my last step here, step 4, which is showing me that I need to change this number right here to a 0. To do that, I need to multiply row 2 by some number and add it to row 1. So I want to take 7/3 times 1 to add it to negative 7/3 so I can get opposites. So the number that I want to put in here is 7/3. And now I'm going to take 7/3 times row 2. So 7/3 times 0 is 0. And 0 plus 1 will give me 1, which is here. Then I'm going to take 7/3 times 1, add it to negative 7/3, gives me 0. Remember, I'm replacing row 1. Then I'm going to take 7/3, and I'm going to multiply it by 8/3, and I'm going to add it to negative 2/3. So 7/3 times row 2, which is 8/3, and then I'm going to add negative 2/3. So if you do that correctly, you should get 10 over 13. And then we haven't changed the bottom one at all. That's going to stay the same as 8 over 13. Now what we're left with is we are left with 1x equal to 10 over 13 and 1y equal to 8 over 13. So it looks like x equals 10 over 13 and y equals 8 over 13. And you can fill those into these boxes here. So this would be 10 over 13 and this would be 8 over 13. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll come around and explain it.